Today we're doing the top 5 most underrated Animorphs books from my perspective. Now, what are the criteria for what comes into my top 5? What do I consider to be underrated? They are books that I originally perceived to be, or still perceive to be, not very well liked by the overall fan base. Books that have a bad opinion amongst Animorphs fans for one reason or another. But also books that when I read them, I thought, actually, that's a really good book. And of course, as the list goes on, it's more to do with how different I believe the fan opinion is to my opinion. So the bigger that gap, the more underrated I believe that opinion to be. There was one book that just missed out on my top 5, and that is book 34, The Prophecy. I'm not going to go into too much detail because we're talking about the big 5, the 5 that I believe are the most underrated books in the Animorphs series. And at number 5 is, unexpectedly, The Unexpected, book 44, the one with Cassie morphing the kangaroo on the front, the one where she travels to Australia. Even before I read this book, because this is one of the very few that I hadn't actually read in the original run. I've only read it the once in my recent series reread. And I went into it thinking this is going to be utter tripe. I'd always been given that opinion. My opinion was shaped by talking to other people about Animorphs and seeing how they reacted to it. In fact, one of my close Animorphs friends, Raptor, before I started this one, we used to talk about my reviews and what I thought, what he thought. He said that there wasn't much to look forward in this one, that Cassie wasn't really developed or anything like that. But I actually thought, going through this, actually it plays a lot into Cassie's character. This came just after 43, where she took herself out of the mission. She didn't really want to have a part of it anymore. She was really on a down, okay? In this book, we saw her flip the other way, and for what I believe to be a great reason regarding her character arc. It was all about her seeing that, yeah, she has to do bad things, but in doing bad things, she can still do good. You know, things aren't black and white when it comes to doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing. Sometimes doing a bad thing has a better good thing going for it. That's not explained very well. You probably have to go back to my actual review of this book to get more detail. But the way it works with those themes and just taking Cassie out of the picture, putting her somewhere completely different to learn this, I thought was a brilliant move, very well executed. Not a brilliant book, but I think it's much better than its reputation of the word that I need to put here. Yeah, that word. Yeah, really good book, really underrated, and it comes top 5. 5th on the list. What do we have next? What I believe to be the 4th most underrated book. Book 36, The Mutation, the one with Jake morphing the killer whale on the front. This is the book with the narthex. This was written by Eric Babone, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. It was her only book in the series. And a lot of people say about this book, it doesn't feel like Animorphs. That seems to be the overarching opinion of a vast number of Animorphs fans. It doesn't feel like Animorphs. It just doesn't fit. Jake is a bit out of character. And I went into this book with that in mind. But I was pleasantly surprised. I thought the Jake stuff was very fitting. The way he sort of bounced between Cassie and the goal of the mission, going from too much sympathy to too much empathy to too little empathy. What's the difference between empathy and sympathy? It's quite a thin line, isn't it? A fine line.
Sympathy is when you feel bad.
They sort of intertwine, don't they?
Bit.
Yeah. But whatever. Jake has that for Cassie at the start, hence why he goes headfirst into this mission, because Cassie was raging in the background of what was going on. She was having one of her moments. And Jake was swayed by that, and too much so. And then later on down the line, he went the other direction. But in the end, he found that balance. And I think it was a really good book. Great time to come in the series where he's learned all these lessons. He just needs to start balancing these things out now. And this was a great book for it. The narthex, yeah, it was quite an interesting storyline. I dig it. I don't think it's not an Animorphs book. in the sense that people will say, oh, it doesn't feel like Animorphs. No, I didn't feel that. I felt that about some other books, but not this one. And I think I like it a lot more than a lot of the other members of the community do, which is why it's number 4 on my underrated list. Moving on. Getting into the real hard hitters now. The top 3 are ones that I believe really are vastly underrated. Basically, these 3 books coming up, I rated 10 out of 10. Brilliant books, some of my absolute favourites from the series, but other fans, the majority of other fans, have a negative opinion of them. So of course, to me, these are really underrated books. And number 3 is book 41, The Familiar, my second favourite book overall in the series. Now, it's not in the top 2 because I have actually seen a lot of people sticking up for The Familiar, saying, actually, yeah, I really like that book. So I don't think its reputation is as bad as some of the others in this list. But it still does suffer from a bit of a reputation problem, the whole it was all a dream thing. But this book was absolutely fantastic for Jake's character. The opening scene, the opening battle, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Everything about it was spot on. And then taking Jake into this weird dream thing that we can only imagine was created by one of the higher powers in the series, because he had that voice thing at the end. Maybe not, maybe it was his own consciousness talking to him. We don't really know. It's left as a mystery. And I like mysteries. But I think the zombie yerk thing in the middle was unexpected, quite chilling. And I liked it. I really dug it. And just everything about it was brilliant. A lot of people, I think, don't like it because of the whole it was just a dream thing. But the whole problem with that trope is usually when it's revealed at the very end after something that you assume to have been real. But no, the book gives it basically from the start, this isn't real. You know that it's not real. So that doesn't bring it down, in my opinion. Apart from that, I absolutely loved this book. It's certainly one of my favourites of the whole series. And it's number 3 on my most underrated books list. Number 2 on the list, another 10 out of 10. It's one of these. It's The Return, book 48, the one with Rachel morphing into Super Rachel. Everyone calls it the Super Rachel book, and it tends to have a pretty negative reputation, much for the same reason, I believe.
I actually didn't read that one because of the cover. I thought it looked stupid.
You didn't read this one because of the cover?
Yeah.
Read it. In fact, how far have you gotten in your reread?
I kind of paused it.
You paused it. Ridiculous.
But you got it. Looking at the cover, I was like, wow, what the hell are they doing? I don't want to read that.
Yeah, fair enough. The cover isn't great because it just sort of goes half-assed into it. Super Rachel should have been much more... They should have done much more to it. But cover aside, this book, fantastic. As I was saying, it suffers from the same problem as the Jake book, where a lot of it is very dreamlike, and I think the whole thing is some sort of pseudo-dream thing going on that doesn't really play further into the series. You get the whole David bit as well, but excuse me. So I cut that out. Nah, sod it. You can watch me dying over here. Yeah, where the hell was I? Oh yeah, the best thing about this book is it brings Rachel's character arc back from the dead, because at this point, after 3 really bad Rachel books, this one was needed. It's her last narrated book, and boy howdy, as the Americans say, it really brought a character right back into whatever it is we're talking about. And I really like Rachel's character arc. I do now, because of this book. It just fixed pretty much all of it. The whole turning to the dark side, but Rachel sort of finding it off. The Super Rachel bit, as silly as it was, it worked. It worked. Tattoo and Grease were brilliant. I love that bit. Yeah, astounding book. But number 1, my most underrated book of the series, is this one. Not the Rachel one this time, but The Resistance, book 47, with Jake morphing into the Beaver. How convenient that they're both in this one. This double book, oh, you can't beat it. Yeah, my favourite book of the series, and I also believe the most underrated. I mean, look at the polls that I've got going on the channel right now. The Resistance is getting hammered in every round. It's not doing well. The fans don't tend to like book 47. Why? I think largely because half of it is the Isaiah Fitzhenry storyline, which, of course, doesn't play into the Animorphs series. It's Jake reading the story of his great-great-great-great-grandfather, or someone around during the American Civil War. But the parallels between that and the story going on, and how we see Jake's leadership and compare it to Isaiah Fitzhenry, I think it is almost a perfect Animorphs book. I'm obviously and clearly an anomaly in the fan base regarding this book, because I think it's the best, but a lot of people just don't agree with me. And that's why I believe it's underrated. Because you lot don't rate it, but I do. But I'm me, so I'm right, okay? And you're wrong.
No.
What do you mean, no?
You can't just say it that way.
I can say it that way.
Well, you're wrong.
Because I'm right and you're wrong, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I'm
Much
thinking
too
your
good
wife,
for
which means
children.
I'm going to be right all the time.
Do you like my Miss Trunchbull? Trunchbull. Much too good for children. It is! It's much too good for freaking children! I love it. And so will you. Right? Make sure of it. Anyway, that's, all jokes aside, that is my list of top 5 most underrated Animorphs books. Finishing with both of those. Great books. I love them. If you don't like them, or you have a bad you've read them in the past but you weren't too keen on them, just give them another try. Give them a try. All the books in this list, give them another go and see if you agree with me. See if their reputation isn't deserved. But next time, at some point in the near future, I shall be doing the opposite. The top 5 most overrated books, where no doubt I'll get into arguments with people in the comments. But, you know, it's all opinions and whatever, and this is the internet, and it's a melting pot of ideas. And I'm throwing my ideas in there. You can have them. There you go. There's my ideas. Have them. Right. So tune in for that one. We've got more analysis videos coming up. I've got loads of other stuff. Of course, there's the Raptor TV Watch series going on. And I'm thinking about what to do for my next Annie Theory. I was thinking about doing the interdimensional Cassie. The Cassie is an Elamist figment thing. I think that's a pretty good Annie Theory, so I might cover that one soon. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you then. Ta-ra.